Wow, so something funny happened on the way to the housing crash. What was it? Let's find out next. Dave Edwards, Treasure Valley Dave here, and today I want to talk about the thing that didn't happen, the crash. Isn't that amazing? But first, before we get to that, if you're thinking that maybe Idaho is a place you want to check out, give us a call, text, email. We'd be glad to answer your questions about it. Everybody here on the Treasure Valley Dave team has made that relocation journey, and we have answers that you may not even know that you had questions about. Also, if you like this video, please go ahead and like, and please subscribe. That helps out so much. And let's get back to what we're talking about today. The housing bubble crash. Do you remember this guy? He told us 11 months ago that the entire economy, the country was going to crash, and it was going to start right here in Boise. You might have seen an earlier video that I did on it. And if you haven't, please go check it out. It makes this video just a little bit more meaningful. So did you see this news story from Forbes just a few days ago? It's called the 2022 Housing Market. Will it continue to bubble or will it burst? Seems like a pretty good questions. And I read through this, and there's going to be a link in the description below. And you might check it out too. But some of the things I noticed, one is that the author, Mr. Mayer, said that for this to be a bubble, it's not just about high prices. Investment needs to be driving demand way beyond where it should be. So is that what we're seeing right now? Investment going way above? So is this a bubble? He says that he doesn't think so. He said home prices are unlikely to fall by any significant measure. At best, prices will just rise more slowly than they have been. So that's kind of pretty decent. He did mention too that housing bubbles and crashes are pretty rare events. It's just that we've all experienced one back in 07, 08 that makes it seem like it's right around every single corner. And I guess maybe there's some psychology at play there. So some of the things that are different this time is that our lending standards have changed. Buyers today are extremely qualified. He goes on to say that there have been many regulations that have been put into place since the crash of 07 that have made our market today much more sound. He said too that, lending standards, he said that the average buyer's FICO score is 42 points higher than it was before. So we have better qualified buyers. Lending standards are tightened up. Mortgage rates. And this guy says that, mortgage rates are, sure, they're going up and they're going to go up a little bit more. And they may go up more again after that. But, looking at the long term, it's, still historically low. And also he said that these higher interest rates are going to discourage the overly speculative investing because it's cost more money for investors to borrow. So that's going to help stave off the bubble. So that kind of makes sense. Going back to what he first said that, we have to have like an overheated investment type of a market, which leads us into the next thing here is equity. Part of the collapse was that because we had too many consumers that were buying their houses without any, down payment and, liar's loans and things like that. And he goes on to say that today's homeowner has about $150,000 worth of equity. So you're not going to see homeowners just walking away willy-nilly if they have $150,000 worth of equity in their house. He goes on to talk about the supply. So before the previous crash, there was a lot of new construction outpaced demand. So there's more supply than there was demand, which kind of sets it up. It's like a perfect storm. Easy credit, lots of supply, very little demand. And so houses were, very easy to get into. And now we have very low inventory. And it will probably take years for supply and demand to balance out again. So will home prices drop in 2020? And he says that one trend remains clear, and that is that demand is high and will likely remain high Also, millennials and Generation Z are coming of age, placing more emphasis on owning homes as they form new households. So there's going to be even more demand. And he also says demand has yet to decrease and inventory has actually dropped. We have more demand, less inventory. It's not the recipe for a crash. So when can we expect prices to drop? That's a pretty decent question. He says that his guess is that we're experiencing a notable dip within 5 years. So does that mean a crash? Probably not. And so is this guy out there all on his own? Not really. This guy over here, MH Finn, I don't know who that is, but he did a review on, you remember that guy, and 11 months after, and he brings up some really great points, some of the points that we just saw. Let's take a listen.
To summarize, I think this. I believe that housing will continue to rise. The only way I see a severe drop or a bursting of the bubble, as Realtor claims, is if interest rates continue their massive move up. Right now, we're approaching 5%, which may be high for recent times, but it's relatively average over the 50-year range. However, if we keep the rates from getting to early 80s levels, I'm fairly confident that this market will continue to go up. The problem with Realtor's predictions is that he fails to focus on the single most important variable of the housing market, the supply of houses. Without this going back up to normal levels, it's going to be nearly impossible to crash this market. There simply are too many people in line to purchase and not enough houses for sale.
So that's very true. And we're seeing that right here in the Treasure Valley. Is our inventory going up? This orange line here is our inventory, and it's still very low. It's almost at COVID record lows. And this goes back to 2006. So you can see historically, back during the crash, I mean, there it is right there. We had so much inventory, and then the prices were dropping down to about 2011. And up here, this is the past year, this little blue line, that's the inventory. Look how low it is. And that's Ada County, where Boise, Meridian, and Eagle are. And here's Canyon County. And we're seeing the same thing here, is that inventory, this orange line right here, is way down here at the bottom. And prices are continuing to inch up. Are we going to have a crash? I don't know. Who knows the future? But I can tell you that the things that are going on right now are, and just the opposite of what you'd have to have for a good old-fashioned crash to happen. So if you're sitting back waiting, well, I don't want to buy a house until the crash, and then after the crash, I'm going to come in and buy it up for pennies on the dollar. Believe me, I have talked with people that have that exact mentality. They say, I should have bought a year ago when prices were 20,000 less, 30,000 less. So to get even with, I don't know, the real estate gods, I'm just not going to buy for another 10 years when there's a huge crash and I could come in and buy stuff dirt cheap. And, never mind that interest rates might be back up to, 12, 18%. You never know. And I guess my big point on this is, if you need to move, if you need to buy a house, don't wait for the crash. That's just kind of a cop-out. That's not a valid reason for not providing for yourself right now. How many people have I talked with that a couple years ago they were renting and they could have bought, but they just weren't in the mood for it. They didn't want to make the effort, and now they're priced out of the market. So it's like, if you can do it now, take advantage of it, because your rent's going to go up. If you're renting right now, your rent's going to continue to go up. If you buy a house, you're going to lock in that principal and interest payment for the next 15 or 30 years, whatever you pick. There it is. Don't wait for the crash. I know literally millions of people watched that guy 11 months ago say the crash is going to happen. It's going to start in Boise and take out the entire country. Well, he was pretty much wrong on that, but a lot of people, millions of people saw that and apparently take some of that to heart. But I kind of called him out on it back then. Took a little heat for it, but you know what? I think time has unraveled that mystery, huh? So if you found this video interesting, please go ahead and like and subscribe and maybe share with somebody. And if you're thinking you want to find out more about buying your house here in the Treasure Valley or find out what it's like to live here in the Treasure Valley, give us a call, text, email. We'd be more than happy to answer your questions and answer those things you didn't even know you had questions about yet. So thanks for coming along today. And until next time, this is Treasure Valley Dave. Looking forward to helping you get home.